24 minutes after the hour, welcome back to Fox News Live coverage here. We want to continue our discussion with former State Department Deputy Special Envoy under President Trump, Ellie Cohanim, as we continue to await the president's arrival at Al Udeid Air Base over there in Qatar. It's an interesting base. It's a massive facility. I've actually had the chance to go there once or twice before, and I can tell you this, it's not just coalition forces, it's a massive presence for CENTCOM. This is a big chance for him, not just to obviously meet the rank and file, Ellie, but also a chance once again to spread American soft power. We've spoken at length, Ellie, about the sort of transactional nature of this journey and even transformational. As Kyron said in our last segment, your thoughts as we continue to await the president's arrival there.
Well, Kevin, it's wonderful to be with you and with Dr. Skinner. It's great that you start our conversation talking about CENTCOM, because it's what I wanted to start our conversation with as well, which is that in so many ways this first foreign visit of President Donald Trump's second term, in some ways it echoes his first term, because if we remember, his first foreign travel and his first term was also to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other countries. But the difference now is that he has had the 4 years in between, and now he's also going back to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, to the UAE, and repairing the damage that was done by the Biden administration in the intervening 4 years. So now he's re-strengthening those bilateral relationships. He's bringing the Gulf region back under the American sphere of influence. We were losing this region to China, and a great example of that was the China-brokered restoration of diplomatic relations between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Iran under the Biden administration. So now you've got President Trump going back and restoring the American sphere of influence. And for me, the most interesting part also is what you just talked about, CENTCOM and Al Udeid. One of the crowning achievements of the first Trump administration was the integration of Israel into CENTCOM. Amazingly enough, Israel used to be part of the European alliance, and the Trump administration with the Abraham Accords rightfully understood Israel as part of the Middle East and brought Israel into CENTCOM. And what we've seen is joint military exercises between Israel and her Arab neighbors. These are accomplishments that some of us thought would never happen in our lifetimes. And so the president, again, in this trip, is reshaping the Middle East to bring the Middle East under the American sphere of influence, and it's just an incredible process to watch happening again in such a quick trip.
Ellie, let me follow up, if I might. Two-part question. Do you anticipate we'll see other nations sign on to the Abraham Accords? I know Bahrain and, if I'm not mistaken, maybe even the UAE already deciding to do that. It's happening slowly. I'm just curious what you think about the momentum in that respect. And I guess the second part of this is it possible in my lifetime, who knows, maybe even in the brevity of the president's trip, that Saudi Arabia, this almost sounds remarkable even to say it, could Saudi Arabia actually recognize the Jewish state?
Kevin, it is remarkable because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is considered to be the holder of Islam. It is where Mecca and Medina, right, the two holy cities of Islam, exist. And so it will be a historic move for the holder of Islam to accept and to recognize the existence of a sovereign Jewish state in the Middle East. So you are exactly right, Kevin, about how incredible that will be. And so let's remember that President Trump in Saudi stood face to face to the Crown Prince MBS, and he said to him in this speech that he made at the Saudi Investment Forum just a couple of days ago, it is my dream that Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accords. And I can't think of anything more powerful than a United States president saying it is my dream that you, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, in effect, the ruler of the Saudi kingdom, will recognize the Jewish state of Israel, will become a part of the Abraham Accords, and in essence normalize relations with Israel. And Kevin, I have to mention that I am so humbled that I was honored to be a part under President Trump's leadership of the Abraham Accords, what we call the Warm Peace Team, in the first administration, and really saw how the president led that effort. And so, Kevin, I am confident that, in fact, we might actually see Saudi normalization with Israel in this second term of Donald J. Trump.
Just incredible. I mean, if you really just think about it in the weight of history, those of us who've been watching this region change so dramatically, just the idea of it, the thought of that possibly happening is quite remarkable. And obviously, we'd all like to see that for the very best, for the prosperity and the peace of the region. Ellie, stay with us. We appreciate that.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.